raise your hand if you've ever felt shy. I'm not alone. I never felt more shy than when in the 3rd grade, I transferred schools, and I was the new kid. I mean, I was literally the only new kid in the entire grade. And on top of that, I was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder. Now, as a 9-year-old, I figured a learning disability just meant that I was dumb. And so there I was, feeling like all eyes were on me, and they were just waiting for me to fail. And I decided that it would be better to be a wallflower than to risk being rejected. Now, fast forward 10 years, moving into college was like £1,000,000 pounds off my shoulders. When everyone's a new kid, I no longer felt singled out. I could be anyone I wanted, and my college self was unrecognizable. Within the first week, I was elected as a co-president of my dorm, and my first order of business was to organize body painting events around campus. Everything was going great until I was introduced to the ACB. The Anonymous Confession Board was an online platform where any student could post anything anonymously, and it quickly became a venue for gossip and public shaming. And apparently, by stepping out into the spotlight, I basically garnered myself some haters. At first, I thought it was funny, and I wrote long, playful responses, but the comments only got more vicious. At night, I found them difficult to shake, and it started to affect my sleep. And as winter set in, I stopped going out so much. By spring semester, I was plagued by social anxiety. Armed with whiskey and weed, I self-medicated to mask my growing discomfort. At night alone with my girlfriend at the time, I would break down into inconsolable fits of sobbing. And by March, when my grandfather passed away, I'd already slipped into the deepest depression of my life. I traded in time with friends for time alone with Netflix. Now, I knew that free mental health resources offered by my college were a phone call and a 10-minute walk away. But I was determined to deal with this by myself. It was like middle school all over again. I could deal with being a wallflower, but I couldn't handle another diagnosis. It wasn't until my girlfriend recommended that I seek professional help that I relented, fearing that I might lose her. So sitting in the waiting room at the health center, filling out my paperwork, it felt like every symptom resonated with me. Heart palpitations, racing thoughts, numbness of extremities, the list went on and on. But the psychologist in his office weren't as scary as I thought they'd be. In place of the cliche leather sofa that I'd rehearsed for, he invited me to sit down on a simple wooden chair. I sat tensely, silence hanging between us as he read my form, and I just flipped through all the worst case scenarios in my head, worried about what my parents might think. Finally, he looked up and said, "Well, looks like you got a lot on your plate." I couldn't tell if he was serious or joking. I walked home after our appointment, skeptical of the feel-good prescription that he left me with. Trade in one episode of television a day for a walk outside for 2 weeks. The day after my appointment, I rebelled, surrendering to Netflix once again. Without class before dinner time, there was nothing keeping me from staying in bed all day as I'd been doing for weeks. But today, now, I had my therapist's calm voice nagging at the back of my head, telling me to go outside. So peeling myself away from my laptop, I figured I'd give it a shot, half wanting to call him out as a quack, prove him wrong. And I headed to my favorite spot on campus, a secluded patch of woods that was the cross-country track. Stepping from concrete onto grass, my resistance began to melt. The green of the trees starkly contrasted the cement grays of my bedroom. Coming upon a small wooden bridge, inspired to do something I'd never thought of before, sit down and just listen. 2 weeks later, at my follow-up appointment, I felt like a new man. Now, this was my first taste of what I now call mindfulness, the state of being present, moment by moment. And you can practice it any number of ways. There's mindful walking, there's meditation, eating, even sex. And it's no voodoo. Researchers at Harvard found that the practice of mindfulness measurably changes the physical structure of the brain, strengthening the areas that are associated with emotion regulation. But just to be clear, I'm not a mental health care professional. I'm a filmmaker, and I'm not recommending that you trade in your prescriptions for leisurely walks in the woods. What I am saying is that you can empower yourself as your own first line of defense against stress, anxiety, and depression by practicing mindfulness. And this is critical on college campuses, where students face a growing crisis. Did you know that more students are dying of suicide than cancer, heart disease, AIDS, stroke, birth defects, pneumonia, influenza, and chronic lung disease combined? It's the second leading cause of death. The first is accidents, which include substance abuse-related deaths, which are also largely correlated with anxiety and depression. And what's insane about these growing trends is that at every campus, there's free mental health resources available to the student bodies. Now, I believe that college should be a place where we're empowered to deal with our stress, not dying because of it. But as I was thinking about what I could do to make a difference, I thought that setting up more workshops and lectures would be a waste of time. When I was a student, I didn't go to a single one. In the context of my already overbooked undergrad life, it never seemed like a priority. So I started to think about what I couldn't say no to when I was a college student. And then I remembered. In my senior year, at the busiest moment, I was rushing through the student center on my way to go study some more when the smell of popcorn and cotton candy caught my attention. And looking around, I noticed there was a carnival set up in the student center. The key was that I didn't have to plan to be there. And once I was there, I didn't have to be sold on having fun. That's what we need for mental health on campus. And that's why I created Project Uplift, a mindfulness carnival to transform mental health stigma with play. We've toured Project Uplift for the last 2 years to schools with our custom experience, the Uplift Tower. We use brainwave sensing technology to gamify mindfulness for stress reduction. Wearing a headset, a student is guided through a simple breathing exercise. When they relax, the headset triggers the fan to levitate the globe-themed beach ball. By going within and uplifting yourself, you literally lift up the world. Last weekend, we were invited to NUS to come and work with a team of local engineers, of student engineers, to rebuild the tower right here in Singapore, and I am proud to say that we were more than successful. Not only did we build the tower, we also documented the process and will be giving away the instructions online for free. As of today, Project Uplift is officially going open source, and I call colleges around the world to raise awareness about mental health and transform stigma with play. Imagine a world where everyone is empowered to deal with stress, anxiety, and depression as their own first line of defense. Thank you.